Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store. Shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Lafayette location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Welcome into a Friday edition of Gold and Black Radio, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. Boilers back after their bye, and we're back with you after a 2-week hiatus, at least on the Friday version of the show. But for the second straight game, they're going to play for a trophy, as the Cannon is on the line against Illinois coming up on Saturday at Ross-Ade Stadium. We'll talk about Purdue catching their breath after 2 straight losses, and if that'll be an advantage against the ranked Illini at Ross-Ade Stadium, who are not coming off a bye. And we're going to do so with the entire Gold and Black crew throughout tonight's show. We'll kick things off with Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison here in first a few minutes, but Gold and Black Radio is brought to you by Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler Up, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, 2 distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn. This Midwestern oasis is perfect for a relaxing staycation or weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort. As seasons change, escape to Sand Valley. Over 12,000 acres of prehistoric sand dunes transform into a breathtaking winter retreat. Glide through snow-covered trails, feel the thrill of fat tire biking, or simply find stillness by a crackling fire with cozy accommodations and farm-to-table dining. Sand Valley is where adventure and connection come together. Book your winter escape today at sandvalley.com. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermaker scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research saves lives. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Let's welcome on Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison of goldandblack.com. And Tom, I forget which one it is. I think it's one of the high-end car dealerships. They run that November to Remember, or maybe it's December to Remember, whatever it is, right? Looking at this month's slate, what are we doing here? Opportunity October for the Boilers, or what?
Yeah, I like that. We have Movember too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Opportunity October, I like it. We have to brand everything in this day and age, Derek Schultz. I like the ring of that. We have a little bit of alliteration there, and it's accurate. We talked about this, at least I was talking about this back in August, the opportunity that loomed in October here for the Boilermakers, beginning with this visit from the Illini. I know it's a big hurdle this weekend, but then you got a trip to Minnesota, then you have a trip to Northwestern, then you have a homecoming visit from Rutgers. So I think everybody watching this and participating in this little podcast would probably agree Purdue has a chance here, guys. Maybe to go 3-1, 2-2. That would be a nice October, and set Purdue up for a very interesting November, right?
Yeah, and Dub, we know that Purdue has already made progress from last season, right? Just seeing the competitive level over the first 4 weeks, not just the fact that they've already won 2 games, and obviously they only had 1 last year. But that said, will it feel like real progress if they can't get at least one of these games, if we're forecasting out, maybe even 2 of these games, just to have something sort of, I think you could see it, but it helps when there's something tangible that you can sort of point to and say, see, this is what I mean by the progress.
I think you have to get 2, at least. I think, the over-under from Vegas was 3.5. So getting to 4 would be a win in Vegas's eyes. But, I think we talked about it earlier in the week, but I think it's so important that Purdue take care of these types of games where it's a Minnesota, a Northwestern, a Rutgers, schools that are, in the same tier or even maybe below you in some years. I don't know, it changes year to year, right? But I think you got to win these ones because we've seen, we saw against Notre Dame and we saw against USC, Purdue's not quite ready to maybe contend with some of these elite teams in college football yet. So you got to win these ones. So I think, if Purdue goes 1-3, I would consider that a disappointment just because of, where these other schools are. Take Illinois out of it. I think Illinois still has a shot at the college football playoff, but Minnesota, Northwestern, and Rutgers, all 3 very winnable games. Games that Purdue should win. I don't know that I can say that, but games that they should nonetheless be be very competitive in and should go in trying to win.
Looking at Illinois, last year's game against the Illini, one of the strangest in recent memory for Purdue. You had Ryan Walters calling plays. You had Ryan Brown coming in and playing really well in his start. I'm not really sure how much you can actually take from that, even though obviously Brown is still around. Walters is not. And everything has changed since then, right, Tom? But I'm actually encouraged because I just know from looking at this history, this Purdue-Illinois matchup can produce really unexpected results. And if you're the underdog in this game, like Purdue is, you want the unexpected result, right?
Yeah, we almost saw an unexpected result last year. You're referring to the 50-49 overtime loss by the Boilermakers. Truly one of the most bizarre games I've been a part of in recent history, guys. You talked about the fact Ryan Walters assumed play calling duties, Derek, from Jason Simmons of all people, a guy who was just an offensive analyst, from the fired offensive coordinator Graham Harrell, 3 offensive coordinators in three consecutive games for Purdue, and it lands in the lap of the head coach who's a defensive coordinator. You can't make this stuff up, guys. You can't make this stuff up. Purdue almost pulled it off, but the big takeaway was Ryan Brown that afternoon, right? Sensational. Running the ball and passing the ball. And Devin Mockaby's had a history of playing very well against this Illinois defense, too. So it's a start for the Boilermakers offensively. I think Devin and I both would agree that we've been encouraged by what we've seen on the offensive side of the ball. For the most part, we can find nits to pick because that's what we do. So, again, that's an offense that has a chance, guys, to maybe put up some points against an Illinois defense. If you look at the stats for the Illinois defense, not good. Not a real good defense. So this could be kind of a fun, exciting game that may be a shootout.
Dub, on that side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball for Purdue, I know that you and Tom talked about this on the Wednesday night show. And as much as we praise the offense and talked about how far along they are, unfortunately the defense hasn't been there. And to be fair, the last 2 offenses that they've played have been pretty good, at least from a talent standpoint. You've got some NFL players on USC's side and certainly on Notre Dame's side as well in the backfield and split out wide. But after missing TJ Lindsey against the Irish, we now know that he's done for the season. How big of a loss is it for a unit that's still really trying to find its way collectively?
It's a huge loss. I think coming into the year, I think we all kind of had high expectations for TJ Lindsey. He was a guy that the staff was extremely high on. From the minute he stepped on campus, and a guy that kind of solidified that defensive tackle spot next to Chops Harkless. So now moving forward, it's going to be by committee. That's something Barry Odom talked about on Monday. He referenced Ian Jeffries and D'Amico Kennedy, and those are 2 guys that have seen time this year. I think Josh Burney could also get some run. Maybe Drake Carlson. Maybe Jamarius Dinkins. So you got 4 or 5 guys that I think could rotate into that defensive tackle spot. But I don't think any of them are the same talent level as TJ Lindsey, and I don't know that they can have the same production that he would have had had he stayed healthy for this whole season.
Tom, what's the best defensive area that you've seen before this season so far? If you had to pick one, which unit has impressed you the most, or maybe impress is the wrong word. Which one has the least ground to make up, would you say?
I mean, unequivocally, the linebackers, without a doubt. 2 UNLV transfers. Manny Powell, number 16. He's been all that in a bag of chips, as they like to say. A leader, a warrior, empties his bucket, as they like to say, on every snap. Well respected. His actions speak for themselves. And then his sidekick, Charles Correa, a younger guy, a true sophomore, just another guy who plays that echo of the whistle and is another warrior out there. Those 2 guys just set the tone there with their style of play and their heart and in their hustle. And there's some depth there too, right? Alex Sanford's getting a little bit more play as well than a guy from Arkansas. And we'll see if they can get Winston Berglund back in there at all. And then the young guy too, Sanders Ellis, hasn't really played much. I'm guessing it's probably because he's maybe still getting familiar with the playbook and his assignments, and maybe they don't trust him just yet. But another guy with a lot of potential. But boy, guys, those two anchors, like I said, 16 Powell and 5 Kraft, have without a doubt carried the flag for a defense. It's sort of been maligned at times, but those guys have certainly more than filled their bill.
Dub, I don't want to have to keep doing this because I'm sure people in the comments are going to be like, moral victories are for losers, right? There are those people that don't believe in moral victories. But if Purdue can simply just put itself in position to win this game against what I think we would all agree is an Illinois team, I think we may argue to varying degrees how good Illinois is, but I think firmly we feel like, this is a good 8-9 win caliber, maybe even more than that, caliber football team. Do you believe that that'll matter going forward, just to sort of set the tone for this stretch with Minnesota, Northwestern, and Rutgers, as opposed to, say, getting run off the field in the second half like they did in South Bend?
Yeah, I could see it going either way, honestly. Purdue goes out there and they have another nail biter in overtime. Does that drain them for the rest of the year or for this October stretch? Do they play them close and fall short, and that gives them the confidence to go forward? Do they go in there and win, and it starts a long win streak? It's kind of hard to say, but I do think that you need to play well this week, win or lose. It's just simply for the fact, we all saw what happened in South Bend. It was absolutely lopsided. I don't think you can have another one of those performances coming off of the bye week. I think, Purdue's feeling good after having some time off, having some time to kind of fix all the issues that kind of presented themselves against USC and Notre Dame. So they're going to be a confident bunch on Saturday in Ross-Ade Stadium. And I think that, Purdue has historically played against Illinois very well. So, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why that is, but that could be the case on Saturday too.
Tom, can they win without getting that running game back on track?
It's going to be tough, Derek. I think they got to find a way to generate a ground game. I wrote about that this week. It was a point of a lot of the questions to the coaches earlier this week as well. No secret, the struggles there have been well documented through the first month of the season. You got to have more of a consistent ground game. There's no explosive ability at all. Maccabee's longest run is 17 yards. The longest run on the team is by Ryan Brown at 26 yards. Average yards per carry, guys, 3.1. That ranks 18th out of 18 Big Ten teams. On and on it goes. The numbers just are not impressive, especially when you get in those short yardage situations. In the red zone, guys, that's when the going gets tough. That's where the tough guys win. That's where your line has to really get that push. Just hasn't been there. So I don't know if you can really fix it, mid-season, right? You have to try to maybe gimmick things up a little bit. We've seen some trick plays in the red zone that have resulted in some touchdowns. A broken play one against USC where Brown picked up the lateral and ran it in. Then we saw the pass at Notre Dame, right, to Ryan Brown for a touchdown. We may have to continue to get creative when they get in that red zone situation, but gimmicks only take you so far, right? And at this point, Purdue's just got to hope maybe just for continued progress, natural progress through the season, try to maybe address some issues they've got up front in the coming off season.
Dub, it's a big visit weekend at Ross-Ade. They're hosting a lot of their current commits, and it is also flip season. So I know we're talking a lot about, Purdue doing some flipping and also trying to convince guys that are uncommitted to come here. But am I right in saying it's still important? These visits are big just so they don't get flipped upon. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's particularly key for a program that's rebuilding and retooling. You can sell the vision. Now it's time to prove it for some of these recruits. They have several guys that are kind of on flip watch right now, kind of flirting around with potentially going to other schools. So one of them is actually going to be on campus on Saturday. So it's important to make those guys feel welcomed and to put on a good show for them and just continue building that relationship. I think that's the biggest thing for recruits nowadays is the guys that aren't getting paid big bucks. They want that relationship piece. And I think that, this Purdue staff has done a good job of that from what I've heard from recruits.
Follow Tom and Dub all season long for the best Purdue football and recruiting coverage on the internet at Tom Dienart1 and at Dub Jellison on X and right here, of course, on goldenblack.com. And guys, we'll bring you back for the roundtable here in a couple of minutes. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
That's Tom and Dub. As we move on to the next portion of Gold and Black Radio, this Friday edition brought to you by our friends at East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. And the Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. Brian Barnhart is the voice of the Illini. He joined Tom early this week for a conversation about Saturday's game at Ross-Ade Stadium and the renewal of the rivalry between Purdue and Illinois. And here's that conversation.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're real pleased to be joined by the voice of the Illinois Fighting Illini, Brian Barnhart. Brian's an icon over there in Champaign-Urbana, stopping by to drop some Fighting Illini knowledge on us. Of course, Illinois at Purdue, high noon Eastern time. On Saturday, Brian, a battle for the cannon. Let's jump right in. Tell our viewers and listeners what they can expect from the Illinois offense.
Well, it starts, and good to be on with you, Tom. It starts with Luke Altmaier. I think everybody knows that. He's got 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. Since you go back to the start of last year, really, I can count on one hand the times he's made a throw where you go, ooh, he shouldn't have thrown that one. And it's easy for us that don't play quarterback to say you should or shouldn't. But, I mean, he's just been so good that he is so smart with the football. He knows when to pull it down and run with it. So he's the guy with the keys to the engine. I mean, he and Barry Lunney together, it's hard to believe, Tom, that Barry Lunney is the longest tenured offensive coordinator in the Big Ten. He's in his fourth year, which is amazing when you think about it. And it's 3 years now with Luke Altmaier. So it starts there. Running the ball, they've got, a handful of tailbacks, Caden Fagan, who was a quarterback at a very small school, Atwood Hammond, in central Illinois, not far from Champaign. Big kid. He weighs 255 pounds. And if you saw the game with USC, caught a screen pass and basically outran the very talented USC defensive backs to the end zone. He is really fast in open space. He hasn't run as well yet. He's still pretty young, learning. He was a quarterback in high school. He just kind of bullied his way past people. He was so much bigger. So he's still kind of learning how to be inside between the tackles, how to run effectively and getting the right position. But you get him in open space or get up ahead of steam, he's amazing. Lawfrey is more of a scat back. He's really fast. He's been banged up a little bit this year, but had a huge game at Wrigley Field last year against Northwestern. He ran wild. And then Khalil Valentine is kind of in between. He's a younger back from the state of California, and he's very shifty and runs a little differently than Fagan. So they got a pretty good 1-2-3 punch there. You'll see all three of them. And then receiver-wise, Hank Beatty, who is a Rochester product near Springfield, Illinois, was on a really good Rochester's a powerhouse in the state of Illinois near Springfield. And he's returned a punt for a touchdown. He's caught a pass for a touchdown. He's thrown a pass for a touchdown, did that last week. He was a quarterback in high school, so he can still do that. And he's rushed one in from 25 yards. So he's really versatile. He makes it go. The question from last year was, could somebody replace Pat Bryant, who was a go-to target for Illinois in key spots? Could somebody replace Zachary Franklin, who was another big receiver? Those two guys are gone. Bryant's now with the Denver Broncos in the NFL. And so Beatty has stepped into that gap. Colin Dixon is another guy you'll see a lot of. They'll throw some to Hudson Clement, who was a transfer from West Virginia. Those are probably their top three targets. But it's an offense that has been very good passing the ball with Altmaier. Offensively have not been running the ball as effectively early, but as the game has gone on, they've run the ball better. And so aside from the Indiana game where everything went wrong, I know much to the chagrin of Illinois fans, and I'm sure Purdue fans probably weren't happy with that either. They've played really well. They've run the ball when they've had to, especially on the last drive against USC. They ran it effectively and marched down the field for the game-winning field goal. So it's a fun offense to watch. Is it flashy? No. But is it pretty steady and consistent with a really good quarterback? Yes.
Yeah, they've looked pretty good so far. Now, defensively, what can Purdue fans expect from the Illini defense?
Well, they're missing a key guy in the secondary. Xavier Scott got injured late in the Western Michigan game, and so they miss him. He's kind of the glue that held everything together. They've been at Indiana. They They played without Xavier Scott, and Indiana just played better that night. But there were a couple of things that didn't help Illinois. One was the injury to Xavier Scott. Miles Scott got called for a questionable targeting call, and he got ejected from that game in the first half. So they missed their top corner with Xavier Scott. They missed their top safety with Miles Scott. And by the end of that game, Matt Bailey had gone out with an injury. He was banged up a little bit in that game and the following game. But he's an excellent safety. Tanner Heckel is an interesting story because he was a backup to Xavier Scott. He's played 8-man football in the state of Kansas, but a really good athletic player. Caleb Patterson has a lot of experience at corner. Jaheim Clark was a guy who recovered a fumble last week against USC. They really like him. That was his first game back from injury. So they were very deep. They had a lot of guys with experience, but injuries have nibbled a little bit away at some of the depth they've had in that spot. Gabe Ackus is a force up front. Certainly an outside linebacker. They line him up on the line. They added a couple of tackles from Wisconsin. Kurt Neal came in from the Badgers, transferred in. James Thompson transferred in from Wisconsin. Those are two really good, solid guys up the middle. Alec Bryant plays a lot at outside linebacker. They got a young man from Florida State, Jura Jaye, who's been starting pretty regularly. So they've been pretty good, pretty solid up front. That was a question mark going into the year, is could those guys come in and be solid. Linebackers are good with Dylan Rosiak back. He, of course, if Purdue fans remember, he was the guy that sacked Ryan Brown at the end of the game with a 2-point conversion late. He also ended the Nebraska game last year in overtime with a sack. So he's kind of in that Jay Lehman, Britt Miller type mold, not a guy that you might think is a star linebacker, but he just winds up with tackles game after game. So defensively, they've probably given up more points than you would like. They started out winning some games they should win, as Purdue beat a couple of teams too that they should beat. They really struggled with the RPO with Indiana, but in 1 week they tightened up quite a bit and did pretty well considering how good. And I know Purdue fans saw USC, how good they are, how talented they are, how Lincoln Riley's team can score very quickly. Did a pretty good job, especially in the first half. They held them to 10 points in the first half. So it's a good defense. Probably could be better if they were healthier. But certainly a good complement to the offense.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you see this game unfolding on Saturday when it kicks off in Ross-Ade Stadium?
Well, it's always what Purdue's won 7 of the last 10, I think, between these two teams. And sometimes when the two teams were both struggling, you didn't know what to expect. Last year, Illinois fans are still kind of like, well, we won 10 games, but we barely beat a 1-win Purdue team that really got hammered at home several times. And I don't know if the whole dynamic of Ryan Walters having worked for Brett Bielema and everybody knew everybody or something weird was going on. Obviously that's not a factor now with Barry Odom, but Illinois is not a flashy team, but they're very solid. They're a lot like their coach. They're very solid. They don't make a lot of mistakes. The Indiana game what was jarring about that, Tom, was over 5 years, you just haven't seen that from a Brett Bielema team. They just don't do the things that get you beat. Usually, if you're going to beat Illinois under Bielema, you got to take it from them and or just clearly be better. And the other, week or so ago, a couple weeks ago against Indiana, they just played really poorly, and Indiana was just guns a-blazing. They were ready to play, and they blew them out of the building. So, but if Illinois takes care of business, no turnovers, they have a very good turnover margin. They should be in good shape against Purdue. But just watching Purdue, to me, and I'm not a coach, but to me, they look more competitive. They look better. Are they, a great team yet? Probably not. Barry Odom's trying to figure out what he's got, probably with all those new players. But Illinois fans are not, I'm telling you, they are not overlooking this game because they've seen too many games with Purdue that have given them headaches over time, and nobody's taken this one for granted. So, Illinois, I'm sure, is favored. I'm sure that, they're the pick for most people, but I've seen too many Illinois-Purdue games over the years to know that it's really hard to predict. And Purdue always seems to play as well, no matter where they play.
Yeah, a lot of good games over the years between these two really close neighbors, just about 90 miles separating Champaign from West Lafayette. Brian, we appreciate you stopping by, dropping again some Illinois information on us. Look forward to seeing you in the press box on Saturday, my friend. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Tom. I enjoy being on with you, and good luck to both teams. We'll see you over there on Saturday.
Thanks to Brian Barnhart for joining Tom earlier this week to preview the game. We always appreciate the opponents making the time to join Tom. I mean, it's the respect level that Tom has from 30, 40 years, however long it's been covering college football. Going to be a hot one this Saturday at Ross-Ade Stadium, but thankfully, and maybe I should knock on wood here, no lightning in the forecast. I don't want to jinx it. I don't think we're going to have any lightning. Chad Evans has everything you need to know with your game day forecast for tomorrow.
Hi everyone, meteorologist Chad Evans here with a look at your forecast for the Purdue Boilermakers Fighting Illini matchup for Saturday. Game time at noon. It will be near record warm with a high temperature of 87 with lots of sunshine, though the air will be dry, so it's not going to be humid, but that sun's going to be hot. So it's shorts, it's sunscreen, it's a summer-like October day. For temperatures fall gradually towards 80 during the evening and into the 70s by the time the game comes to an end. Boiler up.
Thanks to Chad Evans for that. Check out his weather blog. He does a great job on Substack with the local forecasts up there in Tippecanoe County. We appreciate him joining us each and every week. Unpopular weather opinion, 90 degrees in October sucks. And I know what you're saying. You're probably saying to yourself, well, Schultz, in January, where it's 10 degrees, you're going to come back and beg for that. No. January, 10 degrees sucks too. 90 degrees in October sucks. It's October. I'm over it. I'm done with summer. Let's move on. Spooky season. I don't want to deal with it. That's it. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. No Alan Karpik this week. He is out of country where it's not 90 degrees in October. But a couple of historical things to run down here, which I'll have for you here in just a second. But first, want to give a shout out to Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler up. And our friends at Sand Valley Resort with cozy accommodations and farm-to-table dining. Sand Valley is where adventure and connection come together. Book your winter escape today at sandvalley.com. So, as many of you know, Purdue and Illinois actually is the longest standing rivalry for Purdue. 1890, that was a year before they started playing Indiana for the Old Oaken Bucket game, which happened in 1891. It is tied for the oldest rivalry in the Big Ten with Minnesota and Wisconsin. Differences that Purdue and Illinois have not always played each other. So unlike Indiana, they have 126 meetings with IU, only 100 all-time meetings. Only 100. 100 is very significant, right? 100 meetings all-time between Purdue and Illinois. Boilers have won 15 of the last 20, and they lead the overall series. This is how even it's been, though. 48, 46, and 6. That's pretty incredible that it's been that close from what we've seen. My other favorite historical tie, and I'm not sure if Alan would have brought this up or not. Jeff George started his career at Purdue before he transferred after a coaching change to Fred Akers, and Fred Akers is like, hey, I want to run the option. Jeff George is like, see ya. He goes on to start Illinois before becoming the number one pick in the 1990 NFL draft, drafted by the Falcons, then, of course, famously traded to the Colts for Chris Hinton and Andre Rison and a package of draft picks as well. So a lot of history, a lot of connective tissue between these two programs playing for the Cannon, and they'll renew that rivalry coming up here on Saturday. When we come back, we will talk to Brian Newbert, columnist for goldenblack.com, before we hit up the rest of the crew and Tom and Dub and wrap up with the roundtable and go around the rest of the Big Ten. You're listening to Gold and Black Radio here at goldandblack.com. As you all know by now, Gold and Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome back, Gold and Black Radio, and let's welcome on goldandblack.com columnist Brian Newbert to talk stuff and things and football. Brian, happy belated birthday, by the way. Alan sent us all a group text, and I think I might have forgotten, now that I think about it, to say happy birthday. So here's my happy birthday like 10 days later. Hope it was a good one.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it.
I want to be careful with this October schedule because the fact is every other fan base, and I don't know, maybe it's disputable how much of a fan base that like somebody like Rutgers has, but every other fan base, Minnesota, Rutgers, and Northwestern, they're all looking at the schedule and they're saying, well, Purdue can be a win for us, right? That's what they're thinking to themselves. But I think we know Minnesota, Rutgers, Northwestern, they're bottom half teams, whereas Illinois is good. Illinois is maybe not in the Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, IU category, but they're good. They're probably right at the top of that second tier. Can Purdue find a way to split this month 2-2, in your opinion, just from what we've seen from the first 4 games, and I guess whatever you've gathered from those other 3 teams, or even Illinois, if you've watched those 4?
Yeah, I think Purdue's done some positive things here through 4 games. I think that, it's never as good as it seems against lower level competition. It's never as bad as it seems against superior competition, such as USC and Notre Dame. I think Purdue's okay. That's probably how I'd best classify them. I think they're okay. I think they can be competitive. And there's that permanent middle here in the Big Ten. Historically, Illinois would be part of that. Right now, Illinois is on a bit of an upswing that seems sustainable, but these teams come and go from that chewy middle, quite regularly through the course of history. So you never know. But I think Purdue's okay. I think that they've done some good things on offense. I think they'll get better on defense. I think they'll get better, period, with experience. I think, once again, we've talked about this over and over, that when you piecemeal together a team in an off season and you only have them together for a couple of months before they actually have to play, or a couple of weeks before they have to play, naturally things are going to improve with experience as long as you stay healthy. And, Purdue's had a couple of injuries here that are not ideal. The bye week, people say that helps, but I don't know if you can ever quantify that. Purdue's had an extra week to prepare. Historically, that's not meant a whole lot for prior coaching staff sometimes. But no, I don't think anybody in the Big Ten in that tier, the Minnesotas, definitely the Northwesterns, even Illinois, is that much better than Purdue. I mean, we'll obviously see what happens Saturday. Illinois is a better team than Purdue right now, but I don't know if they're USC or Notre Dame better than Purdue. I think last year was an outlier because there was an insider trading element going on between Purdue's head coach and Illinois. He wrote their defensive playbook. Purdue will not have that advantage this year, but Purdue won that game in Champaign last year, basically. If they call that fumble a fumble, Purdue wins that game. And, Illinois was really good last year, and they weren't that much better than Purdue to where they beat them decisively on their home field. So I don't see just overwhelming separation here at this point. You saw what happened to Illinois at Indiana. That was a bad day against a good team in a Hornets Nest type of environment. But it certainly showed vulnerability in Illinois, especially on the road. USC at home in a pro Illinois Hornets Nest came down to the last play, and they did have to kind of skate by. So they're vulnerable for sure. Whether Purdue's up to it or not, we'll find out how productive this bye week was for them, how healthy they are, and just if they can stay mistake-free.
I know it's historically important. I just kind of outlined the history. It goes back to 1890 between Purdue and Illinois, and there's a little tiny itty-bitty cannon that they play for as well. It's kind of a sad trophy. But why doesn't this game register more for Purdue fans? You would never put in the IU category, obviously, and I don't even think most Purdue fans would put in the Notre Dame category. Is it just because, these programs historically haven't played with a lot of stakes, or, I don't feel like this feels like any other game, even though there's 100 meetings between these two teams, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that rivalries really heat up when both teams are good. And when you look at the course of history, how often have Purdue and Illinois games really mattered? You look at the vitriol Purdue and Illinois have for one another now in basketball among their fan bases. Part of that is because I think Illinois people just want to yell at anybody they can. But if Purdue and Illinois played really important football games through the course of this rivalry, I'm sure it would be a little bit more heated. Purdue in general, outside of Indiana, because of the cultural in-state piece of that, who really has a heated rivalry with Purdue where the fans get really, really acrimonious with one another? It's just a function of the fact that Purdue, hasn't played in, a billion really high-stakes games against a lot of their peers in the Big Ten. And that's the sort of thing that really adds fuel to the rivalry. I'm not saying that to make fun of Purdue. I'm just saying that if this were Michigan State, they have played a lot of big games against one another. Iowa, Wisconsin, they have played a lot of big games against one another. Ohio State, Michigan obviously goes without saying. Penn State, whoever, they have played a lot of big games against one another. And, Purdue just doesn't necessarily have that because Purdue hasn't, outside of certain pockets in its football history, have they been that team that plays in those really big games. So had Illinois and Purdue been more consistently good through the course of their football histories, I'm sure that they wouldn't be playing for a monopoly piece. They'd be playing for maybe like a big wooden beef house cow head, like sits in the waiting room there. I think that'd be a pretty cool trophy.
A beef house cow head? Is that,
Have you ever been to a beef house? They've got this big wooden cow bull steer head. It's
I've not been there. I know of beef
cool.
house, but yeah, I mean anything's better than, a cannon is naturally, you're thinking to yourself, a cannon, like,
it's
hell yeah, let's go. And then you see it and you're like, wait, that's it? And for a sport that gives a keg of nails and an axe, and you know what I mean? Like, there are badass trophies in college football.
Iron Maiden.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I just feel like it leaves a lot to be desired, but maybe it is a good representation of this rivalry just in general.
Well, would you rather have a cannon or a shillelagh that nobody can spell?
That's true. Yeah.
Now, if there are spells associated with the shillelagh, that would be pretty cool. But
maybe
I don't think there are.
Now all the Irish listeners are going to be mad at us that you said that on the show. Let's fit in something basketball just because his commitment came in this week. I don't know if there's a term for this on the college level, but is the Rivers Knight commit essentially a draft and stash, get him now, get his body right, get his development right, and then, in 2 years he'll be ready?
Yes. It is a redshirt situation to the point where I'm fairly certain that's been agreed to in advance. He is a guy who will be a developmental, systematic player over the course of time. That doesn't mean he can't come in next year and play his way out of that situation. That kind of things happened before. Ryan Klein was supposed to redshirt. Zach Edey was supposed to redshirt. Now, Zach Edey's situation changed when Matt Harms left in the spring, but Purdue has taken guys before to redshirt them, and they've ended up on the floor. And in some cases have ended up being very good right away. But Purdue is taking Rivers Knight right now as a guy who was hurt all offseason, needs to get healthy, needs to keep working on his body, but can really make jump shots, is legitimately 6'9", will probably be 230 pounds here one day, will be that floor-stretching four that they really covet in their offense. And there's no real downside to this. You have 15-man rosters. I think Painter will regularly, if not every year, maybe every other year or every third year, recruit somebody specifically to be in the program developing, not worried about how much he's playing that year. So I think the redshirt thing, now becomes even more of a part of Purdue's calculus when it comes to recruiting, whereas people would think that's counterintuitive to say in the transfer era, recruiting guys to not play would deter them. I think Purdue's done a good job finding the right guys. Jack Benner's a perfect example. He came to Purdue understanding his situation, understanding the values of redshirting, wanting to do it, and you're going to see a hell of a year from him this year, most likely, and then a great career at Purdue because of it. And I think Rivers Knight is coming in under that same sort of understanding, that same sort of agreement. And this was a pretty highly recruited guy before he wrecked his ankle last spring. And if Purdue can get him back to that, what he'd look like on paper would be the sort of thing fans throw parades over on paper. I'm overstating that, obviously. But there's really all upside to this. But if anybody thinks that this was the forward Purdue's taking with the intent of playing him right away at a position where they need players immediately for 2026, that's not correct. If they thought this had anything to do with any of the other guys Purdue was recruiting, who were all pretty highly ranked players, most of whom have already committed somewhere else now, that's not correct either. This was simply a value-added sort of throw into the recruiting class that they're going to put in the oven for a year and see what they got when the timer goes off.
You can check out Brian's work.
Pretty good analogy, huh?
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah,
that was
just make it
pretty
up
solid.
Three thoughts, columns, boiling over, all the inside boiler info from Brian at goldenblack.com. Let's just go ahead and bring on the rest of the group here for the roundtable just to wrap up and talk Big Ten football. We welcome back Dub Jellison as well as our buddy Tom Dienhart on the football side of things. Non-Purdue wise, it was actually the perfect time for a bye week because you had some really high-level football games that didn't involve Purdue that you could just kind of like. I couldn't possibly care less who won the Penn State-Oregon game, and those are the best viewing experiences where I'm just purely watching to be entertained. I know folks, Tom, they wanted to give Penn State the benefit of the doubt with their returning talent and how the schedule fell. And maybe it's unfair of me to do this, but just watching them in these big games, I mean, it's like the same thing over and over again. And I understand that Oregon's really good and Ohio State's really good, and these teams that they're playing are really good. But in the high leverage situations when the game's on the line, I just feel like Penn State and James Franklin, and it doesn't even matter who the players are, they just find ways to blow it.
Yeah, they can't get over the hump in those games that matter. They kept showing the graphic of Franklin's record against I think AP top 10 teams. 4-11. It was something abysmal, and
4-21.
Yeah, 4-2. So you're going to be when you're a place like Penn State, you're going to be judged not by your games against Maryland and Rutgers and Michigan State, but against your games against the other marquee teams. That's who you are, and they failed miserably. So I think they've got Indiana coming to State College this year. Not sure about Ohio State or Michigan, but that was a golden opportunity, right? This was the team that was anointed this year. This Penn State team is being the one most people, again, thought was maybe going to get over the hump. And like you said, Derek, they're unable to do it, at least so far. But again, great opportunity at home and a great atmosphere. Hats off to Dan Lanning in Oregon.
We can go around the room for this. If you had to put an over/under at how many Big Ten teams in the college football playoff, where would you put it right now? I mean, I feel pretty strongly that it's 4.5 right now.
Yeah, Oregon, Ohio State.
I still think Penn State's there. And I honestly, I think that if IU goes 10-2, I think they're going to get in.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that's not in a vacuum, right? I mean, I know there are other things at play there, but I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good number.
IU's got to go to Eugene in a couple of weeks, I think, right?
Next week.
That'll be another fun ball game. But I think you're right, Derek. I think 4.5, and would be a good number to peg on the Big Ten to get in the CFP this year.
The thing I really like about Oregon is they can make big plays, but they can also beat the hell out of you playing Big Ten football too.
Yeah,
and they've just got a really complete team that can beat you any number of ways, and that's the sort of thing that national champions are made of. And I never would have thought I would say that after they lose Dylan Gabriel and all those guys from last year's team, but they're pretty damn good. And I think they beat Penn State playing Big Ten football, and they beat Penn State playing Pac-12 football all at the same time. And I think Penn State was playing solely Big Ten football. And I think if you've got Drew Aller and you're not making big plays with a senior quarterback, it makes it really hard to beat really elite teams, even in the advantage they have when they play in those whiteout environments in State College.
Yeah, that
USC is going to be interesting too. Tom, what do you think about USC?
Yeah, again, the Penn State, the wide receiver spot's been a real sore spot for them. Yeah, USC, you're right. Just a tough. I don't know. I'm going to call it a tough loss last week. I think Illinois was
still
the better
good.
team. Yeah, they're still very good, offensively, I think especially. So, yeah, well, it's going to be there. I guess I don't want to totally count them out just yet. And yeah, Brian, we got to see them up close, right? Those wide receivers. Defensively, they may not be a cut above, but they certainly gotten better on that side of the ball. That was the real hurdle for Lincoln Riley there in LA. His first few years was just a defense that wasn't up to snuff.
Yeah, and I guess Michigan maybe is sort of, I don't think that's a playoff team, but they're kind of in that next grouping, and I don't really know what to do with Michigan. I don't really know what to do with Illinois. I think Michigan and Illinois are kind of in the same boat where you're like, okay, are they really good? Are they just good? I don't really know. It's an interesting year, I think, in the league because I think we know who the bottom half teams are, but the top half, it's kind of hard just moving all the chess pieces around there. But guys, should be fun tomorrow, post-game show to immediately follow Purdue and Illinois streaming, goldenblack.com, YouTube. We'll put it up on the podcast channel and all of that as well. That's been great content for fans to go to right after the game. We'll see if the Boilers can get it done, bouncing back from the bye week. But appreciate it, Tom, Dub, and Brian, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Golden Black Radio.
All right, fellas. See you.
That's our crew, and that's our show. Good-looking bunch. Thanks so much for joining us here on Golden Black Radio. I want to give a final thank you to our presenting sponsor, first and foremost, Academy Sports and Outdoors, as well as Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn, Sand Valley Resort, with cozy accommodations and farm-to-table dining. Sand Valley is where adventure and connection come together. Book your winter's escape at sandvalley.com. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Of course, you can leave a positive review on whatever platform you're utilizing, whether that's YouTube, whether it's a podcast. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. goldenblack.com. Readers get all of the best Purdue sports content, men's basketball and football, Knucklehead Central, and everything else on the site, but also just on our regular channels. YouTube, subscribe if you're not already. Any of the podcast platforms, subscribe to Golden Black Radio, and you'll get everything. You'll get the Wednesday night show. You'll get the Saturday simulcast, the whole deal. So Purdue-Illinois post-game show will go on these game channels following tomorrow's game, so be sure to check back in then, and we'll be back with you right here on Golden Black Radio for a Tuesday edition coming up in a couple of days. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday here on Golden Black Radio. As you all know by now, Golden Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.